Donald Trump arrived in the UK and he pointed out the blindingly obvious.
But on immigration, you better get your act together. But you're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. Biden was a total stiff, and what he allowed to happen, but you're allowing it to happen to your countries. And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe. This immigration is killing Europe.
We're being invaded. And the bleeding heart liberals would have you believe that these people are fleeing persecution, which maybe some are. But it is clear that the numbers arriving on a daily basis illegally across the channel, so brazen are they that some have just arrived in via luxury yacht, is completely unsustainable. What will it take for the bleeding left to indeed, and the government to change their tack?
I think it's really, really important for people to understand that there are no safe and legal routes for refugees to come to this country. This is the only way they can come here. It's on a boat to pay. Yeah, they've got the whole of Europe. Why should we put that burden on the rest of Europe?
But you not think
we still have to take responsibility for the fact that we have a lot of stakes in the conflicts and the climate crisis that causes people to be refugees and have to come to another country.
You wait till they move next door to you, love. The epitome of naivety. In the meantime, a steady flow of thousands are gradually making it to the UK, and instead of discouraging them, we are openly, actively encouraging. 4-star hotels, cash so some can gamble in casinos, brand new phones because they've chucked theirs in the sea, laptops with Wi-Fi, vouchers for experiences, and 3 square meals a day. Is it any wonder that people are protesting when farmers are being taxed to death, literally, since Rachel Reeves announced her inheritance raid? 6,365 agriculture, forestry and fishing businesses have closed in a year. Well done, Rachel. Bravo. She hasn't got a clue. Pubs are shutting down at a rate of knots as they're being crippled by business rates, wage increases and, God help us, when Angela Rayner's worker bill kicks in. The resident doctors are on strike again, looking for even more money after clever old Wes Streeting handed them 2 consecutive pay rises, totalling over 27% in less than 2 years, with no conditions attached despite their hefty pensions. The British taxpayer is being fleeced every which way by Chancellor Rachel Reeves. The government said that they would end the use of migrant hotels, so now they are looking at councils to buy up empty homes for asylum seeker. Oh, that's great. So whilst our young people can't get on the housing ladder because it's so flaming expensive and British people are being put to the back of the queue for council accommodation, it's all the wrong way round. We should be stopping the boats. It's not cruel to acknowledge that we can't save everybody. There have to be limits. You know, I'm tempted to lead a double life. Throw away my wig, you never recognise me. Go to France, pay a smuggler, get on a dinghy, chuck away any passports, get back to the UK, pretend to be seeking asylum and live rent-free for a few years. I can then get rid of all my debts, stop paying bills and just reappear later as a British citizen.
The way to make it work is to smash the gangs that are running the vile trade.
Yeah, smash the gangs. That has royally failed, as has reducing the use of migrant hotels. Since the Labour government have been in power, crossings are up 50%. This country is breaking at the seams as a result. And it's not just illegal entrance. Legal migration was off the scale too. This should be the #1 focus in this country as it affects all of us. All of this immigration, it's a real problem. But what are they talking about? Gaza and recognising Palestine as a state.
Reports are emerging of another fatal incident near a distribution centre in Hamas-controlled Gaza.
A little bit of breaking news to bring you. There's been a lot of focus, as you'll know, on the number of people being killed in Gaza while trying to access aid.
Listen, I have no problem with that conversation, but perhaps we should first focus on saving this country, which we are currently giving away. We've become experts at giving away things that belong to us. Chagos, why did we do that? Fishing to the EU with no concessions, why? We couldn't even give them conditions regarding crossing the channel. Well, perhaps we should have taken a leaf out of Donald Trump's book, but oh no. It is time for the left and the right to unite and end this industry of illegal immigration before we are at a point of no return. If we haven't already reached it, Donald Trump is absolutely correct. But I'm now joined by the former Financial Times journalist and author Alan Friedman. Alan, so let's talk Donald Trump. Good afternoon. Now, Donald Trump, to me, seems to have got it right. He's managed to cut down migration to practically zero. Even the left in the United States are saying, yeah, there's no migration, there's no illegal migration. And I'm just wondering, do you think that his words are wise and that the UK is actually being invaded and he's right to point this out?
Well, you know, Nana, Donald Trump has a long history of a line of rhetoric against illegal immigration. He began his political career in 2015 at Trump Tower, saying he was going to get all the rapists and criminals and illegal immigrants out of America and build a wall. I think his bringing this up during his heavily protested visit to Scotland, where he's spending about $20 million of taxpayer money, U.S. taxpayer money, while he golfs and calls Keir Starmer. And I guess he would like to have King Charles visiting him. I hope King Charles will not come running. But I think this is all just standard rhetoric, Nana. And I think while the issue of illegal immigration is an issue for the English Channel, yes, it is for Lampedusa in Italy, where they're coming across from North Africa, yes. I think the point is it affects Britain and Southern Europe more than it affects Northern Europe. So I think there's not a crisis across Europe. It's only 1% of immigration that's illegal across Europe, according to 2024 statistics, that I believe one of your guests cited earlier. So I think it's Britain has a bigger problem, and at the same time, imitating Trump's style, does that want to take us to deportations? I hope not.
Why not?
I would not like. Well, because in America,
not? It's worked though.
I'll tell you why.
Okay, so you had the fentanyl issue, which was quite serious, and that was drugs coming across the Mexican border. This is one of the things that he wanted to stamp out. One of the reasons why, because that border is, we all know, has an issue with transporting drugs. So he was right to do that.
Hang on, Nana. Whoa, let me fact check you there. Fentanyl from Mexico or fentanyl from Canada?
No, I said from Mexico, so drugs coming across. So there's lots of drugs coming across.
Because he's made up the story about Canada, you know. That
no, but I didn't mention Canada. You mentioned it. I've never said Canada.
But Trump's been attacking Canada as well. Anyway, I think
well, listen, I don't know whether I agree with his attack on Canada. I would say that is a bit odd when he thought he could be the next state. He does say things that I think are ridiculous. So we are on the same page with that.
Can I tell you what all this is about? This talk of immigration from Trump and his Scottish trip. It's about basically trying to change the subject from Epstein. Because in America right now, while Trump is traveling in Turnberry and while Britain is watching him as he has Starmer trudging up there to pay homage to him in some way, because he's, Starmer looks like a bit of a poodle to Donald Trump these days.
He is, yeah. I'd agree with that.
It's an impression I have. But while all that's happening, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, the scandalous Robert Maxwell, old owner of the Daily Mirror and the Sunday Mirror, who died. I was a Financial Times journalist about 30 years ago when we investigated the death of Robert Maxwell at sea and was he connected to Mossad. It was an amazing story. But the daughter turned out to be a sex trafficker with Epstein, and she seems to have the goods on Trump, but she seems to be willing to cut a deal with Trump's personal lawyers who are at the Justice Department, basically to get a pardon from Trump, which he's talking about while visiting Scotland. And that would mean pardoning a sex trafficker, and that would make the President of the United States, excuse my French, a pedophile.
Well, I think that's a bit I don't think that works out that way. I know he was mentioned in the Epstein files, but he wasn't mentioned on Epstein Island, isn't it? So he was in the files.
No, but he said he never went to Epstein Island. Yeah, but there was no mention. 11 times. Okay. 11 trips.
All right. So
he fired.
But he was friends. Let me just. I listened to you, but he was also friends with Epstein well before any of this, anyway. So it wasn't. It shouldn't be a surprise. But it shouldn't be. it shouldn't be a surprise that maybe he knew him and they talked, because all these billionaires all talk together anyway. But earlier you did say that he said he's going to get rid of paedophiles, rapists and illegal migrants. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with getting rid of illegal
Because you see,
migrants.
I think that's what you're saying about Donald Trump saying that.
What I was trying to say before is that in America, what we're facing is not just getting rid of illegal migrants, but a deportation epidemic, where he's using the military to go into Los Angeles, and he's using American ICE agents. They just gave ICE a $150 billion budget. That's the equivalent, gosh, Rachel Reeves can't find 20 billion pounds. No. That's $150 billion just for ICE agents who are masked, don't wear uniforms, and rip students out of universities.
If they're illegal migrants, right?
No, they're making a lot of mistakes.
Well, if they make mistakes,
innocent people.
I suspect there'll be a few mistakes, and they need to sort that out.
And they're sending people to Sudan, to a war-torn zone in southern Sudan. I can't believe that we Americans.
But what would you? The thing is, though, it's all very well, but even you have said that it's good and there's nothing wrong with removing illegal migrants. So if people are working, but if people are working illegally, or they've come to your country illegally, or they've broken into your country, why would you object to them being sent out?
Let me give you my last argument, and then I give up. Okay. In America, we have 11 million illegal immigrants, but they're not criminals. They're not people who are sort of stealing. They are people.
Well, what does illegal mean? That makes you a criminal, doesn't it?
Means their visa expired years ago.
So they're breaking the law, so they are criminals.
Well, yes, technically. However,
well, there you go.
To me. Let me finish my sentence. They are people who work in families and communities, pay taxes, work as dishwashers, work in restaurants as wait persons. They are factory workers. They work in McDonald's flipping hamburgers. And they're actually integrated into America, those 11 million people.
Yeah, but they're illegal.
Then there's a few 100,000 criminals. And it's good to get the criminals, but these people are being ripped out of their families and their communities, and they're actually the people who do the bottom work in American society that the Americans don't want to do.
I hear you, but they are there illegally, so they are criminals. They're all criminals.
So we should expel them all?
Well,
you know what happens? But you know what happens when you expel the tomato pickers from California?
What happens?
The price of tomatoes go up.
Well, then you pay your own people who work there properly. I think it's an explosive, this illegal migration that makes these people, these big business get drunk on cheap labour. It's about time they paid people properly. Listen, Alan, we could talk for ages.
Having lived, I'll just close out saying this, Anna. What about Polish plumbers? Polish plumbers in the old days in Britain were really essential to your economy. Now, after Brexit, no more Polish plumbers.
No, but they undercut the British workers, so it wasn't really that great for the British workers because they could live five. Because they could live five. They were good people. I'm not talking about them individually, but they could live 5 people to a room or whatever, take very normal wages, send it back to Poland because the pound was high.
We're not. That's why I'm here. So
all right, Alan,
it's a pleasure.
Really good to talk to you. I could talk to you for ages. Really interesting. All right, he's a former Financial Times journalist. That is author Alan Friedman.